Not all smells are created equal, and neither are our noses. Welcome to From the Vault of the Monell Center. We're remarkably bad at judging our own sense of smell. In this From the Vault video from 2021, we present the first part of a visiting scientist seminar presentation given by Dr. Andreas Keller from Rockefeller University. Dr. Keller's work demonstrates how basic olfactory research can be translated into practical clinical solutions. In this series of videos, he discusses the development of his own smell test and explains how it moves beyond familiar odors like coffee or roses and instead uses a carefully designed mixture of equally intense molecules. At Monell, similar efforts of translational research via smell tests are underway. We've developed Sentinel, a rapid smell test designed for quick screening of smellability. Hopefully, these approaches point to a future where smell testing is as routine as getting vision or blood pressure checked at your doctor's. With that said, here's Dr. Andreas Keller.
Why don't you just ask the people if they can smell or not? The reporting is unreliable. These are just two figures that show that. On the left, you have a comparison of what the people say when they come to the doctor, and then compared to the results of actually doing psychophysical testing of taste and smell. And you see there's big differences. About a third of those complaining about those symptoms don't show any problem in the tests. And many people confuse famously smell and taste, and therefore also smell and taste loss. And what's not in that figure is that many people also will not even know that they have a reduced sense of smell. And, famously, that is not a good situation when you can't tell your own body odor or the odor of your apartment, but you don't know. And then on the right is just a correlation or a lack of a correlation of self-reported smell acuity and tested TDI score. And you see there is no correlation between those two things. And as somebody who has tested many, many people in psychophysical studies, I can attest to that. They come in and say, oh, I have a horrible sense of smell, or I have such a great sense of smell. And in many, many cases, that just isn't what the data then shows. So for these reasons, a quick smell test that can be self-administered in a doctor's office, ideally on a regular basis, so you have a baseline, would be very helpful. And that's what we're trying to do. And so it all started in 2018, but the paper describing the test, all of what I talk about today is based on, come out in 2018. R stands for resolution, S stands for sensitivity. So it is a detection threshold test, that's the S, and a discrimination threshold test, that's the R. The stimuli here are mixtures of iso-intense molecules, so mixtures of molecules that are all diluted to the same or roughly the same intensity, so none of the components dominates the smell, and then they're mixed together. So everything is based on triangle tests. That's being shown here for smell S on the right. You have different dilutions of your mixture, and then you have two solvent controls, and you ask which one has the strongest smell. For smell R, you have three mixtures, but one mixture is different from the other. One by one, the components of that mixture are exchanged for different components, so the smells surge and become more and more different. And you ask which of the three is different, and you get a level at which that the number of molecules that are different at which you can tell that these are different smells. And the algorithm in which those triangle tests are being employed is a adaptive staircase test. So if you get something wrong, you get a task, and if you get something right, you get a more difficult task. And so over time, you will end up at the level where you can just tell the difference between the two stimuli. So these are figures from the paper. And so you have 16 steps. 16 is the most difficult one. Step 1, the easiest one. And you can see how the subject here on the right, for example, it's a typical curve for a detection threshold. You start at the most difficult one and they get things wrong. Sometimes they guess it correctly, but in general, they get it wrong till they come to the level where they can smell it and then they balance in at that level. And then a typical way to deal with those is to take the last 3 reversals. The reversals are here marked with the colored dots, and then take the average of that. So this person would have a smell RS score of 10.59. We've changed how we do this since the paper. So in the current version, smell R has 20 components, smell S has 40 components. Those components are also different from the one in the paper. In the paper, they had to be diluted to different levels. So some of them were diluted 1 to 10 and others 1 to 1,000,000. And now we have components that are all diluted 1 to 1,000. So you can mix them together and then just dilute all of them, which makes production much easier. We also have reduced the 16 levels from the paper to 10 levels now. So that is the current version of smell RS that we're using. Okay, so to get back to the paper, how are those 2 things that are being promised in the title of it accomplished? The odor-specific insensitivity or independence of odor-specific insensitivity and of prior olfactory experience. Both are accomplished by using those mixtures, those iso-intense mixtures that were pioneered by Noam Sobel and his lab. So once you mix those components together and they're all at the same level, you get smells that have never been smelled before and don't have a recognizable or familiar smell to them. So that excludes all problems one could have that some people may be more familiar with the smell than others because nobody is familiar with those smells. And the same usage of those complex mixtures also solves the problem of odor-specific insensitivity because there's no single odor.